Welcome to the Tuesday Weekend, the podcast that made enough for leftovers. I'm Josh Hobson. With me is Nick Parkin. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, even though it's not quite completely blue skies in San Diego, which is what we call bad weather here.
Funny. This week, with Thanksgiving Day hitting right around the C block, we thought we would talk about leftovers. Leftovers. Where do they come from, and how do we keep them from taking over the fridge for 3 weeks until we throw them away? Actually, I guess first, Nick, do you have any plans for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, actually, with my current situation, since I'll have the week off, I'm probably going to drive out to where my family lives in Tucson and spend the week there with them and have a nice time.
Lovely.
And as we're talking about leftovers, I've lived away from home for 10 years. 12 years, but it's always in driving distance. And I've always learned to take a car with me if I want to do anything while I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise I'm in the house constantly. And we all know what it's like to be there with your family for, say, a week.
Oh, sure.
When you're used to living alone in a big city and now you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Also, I learned to take a cooler with me for leftovers, because having an Italian mother and being in an Italian family, we do not understand portion size at all.
No.
So
Does
I
not
can take a
translate.
cooler, and I have a cooler. I have an entire setup of Tupperware that I bring with me, and when I come back home, it is full.
Yep.
Like, I know when I go to visit my family that I do not have to buy food for at least a week.
When my grandma Novak was still around, I would not visit her house without leaving with at least 4 loaves of zucchini bread at a minimum. And that was if I was flying and that's all I could take with me. But if I actually had a car, whatever grandma would make, that would be mine to take with me. Yeah.
When I go for Thanksgiving next week, I guarantee you my sister-in-law is going to make pozole, she makes a fantastic pozole, by the way. It is wonderful. And she makes 5 gallons of it.
Right.
And 4 of those gallons are allotted to me. All right, I'm eating a lot of pozole.
Well, and there is a distinction. It's kind of where the line is between meal prep, where you are intentionally making future meals, and just kind of appropriate portion control, and product utilization, kind of like you touched on, and what is actual leftover, kind of the unintentional leftover, if there's any kind of difference really between them.
There is. I mean, meal prep, and especially just straight up meal prep, where you sit down and make meals for the entire week and then package them separately, and like, here's my 7 dinners, here's my 7 lunches. Right. That's your meal prep. When you sit down and make spaghetti and meatballs, and then you have spaghetti and meatballs for the next 4 days because you made so much, that's not meal prep, that's leftover.
Well, exactly. And I also will say, for years, I have dealt with the challenges of cooking for 1 or 2. Okay, sure, sometimes I've had other roommates as well, but rarely am I home at the time they're home eating dinner. So it really is mostly just cooking for myself. And really, it is a challenge, because in the grocery store, a lot of things are packaged for families, are made a little bigger. Dee and I have a Costco membership, and our freezer is packed because we have to buy the big bulk and then portion out small bits.
Same boat with you there, man.
There really is a skill in figuring out exactly how much you need to make for 2 people without having leftovers, but still both of you be satisfied with the food.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I do kind of a sort of meal prep. I can sit down and say make one. Something I like to make, which is fun to eat later, is like a chicken cordon bleu is super easy. At least the version I use, it's easy to make, but I'm not going to make 1 for myself. I'm going to make 4 or 5 and then have it for dinner after work, because I can come home and just have dinner after work and not have to cook anything.
Right.
That's kind of like my version of meal prep. I mean, I'm kind of prepped up right now with a bunch of different stuff. So I already cooked it all because I had the time, but it's easy to cook for 1 person, but it's difficult at the same time because it takes the same amount of time for me to make 4 or 5 as it does 1.
Sure. And then often that is the case, is the amount of time it takes to make 1, making 6 is not that much more, because it's getting everything prepped for it. Yeah.
It's like when I'm behind the bar and someone says, "Hey, I'll take an old fashioned." I'm like, "Okay." So I get all the stuff, I make it, I grab the bourbon and stuff, I put everything away. Here's your drink. Oh, I'll have one of those too. And I'm just like,
right.
Do you make it? And then, I'm like, does anybody else want an old fashioned? and then I make 4 in the same time it took me to make one, like maybe a couple extra seconds, but not the extra minute or two for each single one.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm kind of
because
finite on time like that.
because then you are picking up each bottle one time.
Yeah,
Boom. Instead of
exactly.
up and down and up and down. Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah, that's literally that's kind of. I mean, there's meal prep, and then there's just kind of I'm making food for the rest of the week that I'm going to eat at some point.
Right.
That's not leftovers though.
But,
like you're saying, leftovers are the turkey dinner with all the trimmings, and then you're eating that and making up new stuff as you go because you're like, what can I do with this today? Because I have to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get into kind of some of the recipes I use, those sinks, those catch-alls, the things that are easy to throw leftovers at. And then I have one secret technique that I learned. I figured out at a Thanksgiving years ago, and it is my favorite thing to do with leftover stuffing. But I'm not going to tell you for a minute. In fact, why don't we take our first quick break right here, and we will be back with more on leftovers.